Welcome to the Coaches Cafe, brought to you by the Priority Academy. Hi folks, and welcome into the Coaches Cafe podcast. It is my absolute pleasure today to have a gentleman all the way from Scotland, although he's not originally from Scotland, as you'll tell from his accent. Please welcome Mr. Cuddy Cudworth. Cuddy, how are you today, sir?
I'm great, Graham. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. And honestly, total gratitude for having me on. I genuinely appreciate this. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you for being on, sir. It's a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. We've spoken on many occasions, and we always generally have a bit of a laugh. So hopefully this will be an entertaining and as well as informative podcast. So first of all, Cuddy, tell me about your story, how you've got to the point of coaching. What's your backstory and how have you got to here now?
So the backstory for me is it was 8 years. It was, well, actually, you know, I've always been saying it's 8 years ago. It's probably about 9 years ago now. So 9 years ago, I went through a really tough part of my life that just sent me on this massive spiral of constant worrying of thoughts, depression, just walking around like a shell, just couldn't even have conversations with people. Basically, walking around with a smile on my face, but on the inside, smile. Oh, it's the smile, right? We see, and everyone says, "Oh, you're fine." Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine. But on the inside, I'm absolutely screaming for what is going on, just what is going on in my life, just because of this one small cataclysmic event that just absolutely shattered my ego into about 75,000 pieces. Because I was like, no, I've done everything I'm supposed to do. I've done this. And I did be practicing and things like that. And wow, it was just horrible. And I've been there. And I suppose that's the thing when you're working with clients and things, like when you've been there and you understand the upset that you can see people are going through, and then we create these stories, right? We create these stories of my problems are worse than everybody else's, and that's my journey of not being able to let things go, absolutely just walking around in a daze on a daily basis, and just not knowing what's going on, and emotions. And by the way, I'm 6'2" and 3 feet wide, Graham. I'm quite a big, burly gentleman, and I'm always very honest that, God, I was just an emotional mess. And I didn't know who to speak to and what to talk about and those kind of things. And you're just screaming on the inside, help me, help me, help me, help me, help me. Yeah. And I couldn't even have conversations with people. And it was my wife. So this is possibly why I come from this little place of tough love, because it was something that my wife said to me. Because I thought I'd got everything under control, and I'm hiding it with a mask of everything's fine, everything's fine, everything's fine. But it was my wife that said, whatever you're going through right now is starting to affect me.
Wow.
And I was like, holy shit, that's quite a harsh one. What I'm going through that I thought I was covering and clearly masking, because we think we're masking that upset and that turmoil inside. And whatever you're going, I remember it. I still remember it to this day. I was like, what? She went, yeah. I've tried to give you love. I've tried to give you encouragement. I've tried to pick you up. But whatever, you need to get help, or you need to do something about it. And that to me, and it was, because at first, because obviously we'll talk about Monkeymind and things like that. So at first, I was absolutely raging, thinking, what a cow. She can see I'm struggling now, and she's just kicked me while I'm down. Is that the worst thing that she could have done? Is that the best thing she could have done? Kick me while I'm down. And and it was the best thing. It was after I'd like licked me wounds a little bit. I was like, oh, right, yeah, no, you're right. So you have to have that tough love. My wife came from a place of tough love, and she said, whatever you're going through, you need to work on, or you need to find some, because it's starting to affect his relationship and things like that. Because I remember, I'm talking an awful lot here. I feel like
you talk away.
So that's my journey. I couldn't sit and have a meal with my wife when we were eating, and we sat across from each other, and we'd be eating away, and we'd have a conversation for 45 minutes. And at the end of the meal, my wife would say, thanks for the conversation. Now, Graham, if you're as astute as I am with understanding people's tones, I definitely heard the sarcastic tone. Maybe it was the face that she pulled as well. Thanks for the conversation. And I was like, what do you mean? We've eaten, I've had steak. She went, no, I've talked 45 minutes. I've asked you questions and you've just, And I was like, is it that bad? She went, yeah. Just getting totally locked up in here with these conversations that we have. And that's what I found out about Monkeymind. Totally up here, getting locked in, couldn't even have a conversation with my wife. So it must have been so frustrating for her. And it was just the best thing that she ever did by saying, get help. And that's possibly the journey that started me on this, and it is a journey. I think we're all fully aware it's a journey of finding out there is things we can do about it. And you don't have to live like that. And you are allowed to get past that and really, really work on yourself. And it's not as hard as we think it is. Sometimes it's really not as hard with everything that goes on in the past and things like that. So yeah, that's my journey, Graham, in a nutshell.
in a nutshell. Fantastic. It's amazing, isn't it, that we do sometimes go very, very inside and we think we're handling it all ourselves, but we don't see the effect it's having on other people. Particularly the closest ones to us usually are the people we love and tend to be the people that are most affected by it, which is what you're saying.
Yeah.
So what helped you out of that? Was it coaching? Was it meditation? Was it a mix of both? What helped you through?
Meditation, right? So I started Googling everything, and I started speaking to certain people and like people that I knew were life coaches and those things. I said, I've got a question. And what it is, I look, for anyone that's listening, I think this is the best thing. I Googled overthinking. I clearly found out I was overthinking, and I Googled, I think it was in Audible or Kindle, stop thinking, just how to stop thinking. And this one book popped up. And it's called Stop Thinking, Start Living by Richard Carlson. For any of your listeners, this is the book that I would, if I would be allowed to, I'd give it to everybody. This should be your absolute Bible. Wake up in the morning, read this book. And for any of my friends that I know are struggling, they don't want to work with the services and things like that, I'm like, just take this book. And all of them come back to me that, oh, that's what I do. Oh, that's what I do. Yep. So look, you've got something to start. And at the end of that book, it referenced meditation. So I'm like, nah, I'm not doing meditation. No, that's not for me. I can't do meditation. That's just silly. But I really enjoyed that book, and it kind of ticked a lot of boxes for the questions that I was asking. And I'm like, all right, I'll start doing those things. And then I thought, okay, I've really enjoyed that book, and I've enjoyed that experience. It's made a bit of a change, but I don't think I was there yet. So I went on to another book, which was, I think, The Chimp Paradox by Steve Peters.
Oh, what a book that is.
That's a phenomenal book, but it's a really hard book to read. It's I had to read it 4 times because you read it and then you take so much information in. And I was like, oh, hello. That's where Monkeymind came from. But to really deep dive Monkeymind, it's actually an old Buddhist saying. It's a very old Buddhist saying of Monkeymind. And I went on that journey of learning about those things and why it's there, what it's there for. And it did have a positive intention, but it's now not a positive intention when it gets over it's there to keep you safe. It's there to look for any fear that you might have and keep you safe, like a troop of chimps and monkeys. We've got that mindset of this has got to keep you safe. So it's always looking for things to keep you safe. So it's always pulling you away. And then it holds on to those conversations, those memories. And I was like, okay, so I need to rewire that. I think that's such a clever word of rewiring, because that's genuinely what you have to do. You have to understand it, then we can rewire it and then go back to living a nice, normal life. So yeah, Steve Peters' book was a phenomenal book. And then that went on to NLP. Love NLP. And NLP to me, again, is like, take this book, take this book. And NLP 100% works, especially the code and the language that we use and how we talk. And once you learn that little bit of self-awareness of understanding, if I can hear it, you can change it. And I think that's the beauty of self-awareness, I think, is I can hear my judgments and I can hear my thoughts, and I'm like, nah, I'm not going to have that. No, because I know what happens if we keep going down that route. I know where that one leads. So I'm going to keep myself, especially my thought pendulum. I still remember my thought pendulum to this day. And I keep it right on kilt when I can. And that's where meditation. So after about reading 3 or 4 books, everyone referenced meditation. And I'm like, all right, I've got to give meditation a go. So I gave meditation a go, and absolutely, I'll even, do you know what? For any of your clients, I'll give you the Monkeymind method for meditation, because there's so many different ways of meditation. So we'll talk about that later. But yeah, my Monkeymind when I first started doing meditation was like, nah, do not like this. What are you doing? So you put the music on, and I'm like, breathe in, breathe out, and your Monkeymind starts going, excuse me, can we talk
over
about
here?
Something
No, over here.
No,
yeah, absolutely.
Can we talk about something that happened 4 years ago? Because now is the really important time. We need to talk about it. And I'm like, shut up. 1, 2, 3. No. This is what we're doing. No, I don't like the calmness. No, I need something going on. I'm like, no. So you get heart palpitations when you first start doing meditation. But all the books and everything you read is like, no, just practice. So obviously you start out doing 1 minute a day, 2 minutes a day. But honestly, within 2 weeks, and my wife will confess to this one, 2 weeks, same time, every day, changed my life, changed my thoughts. And my wife in 2 weeks noticed the difference and went, ooh, you need to keep doing meditation. You need to keep doing meditation. And then you go on that journey of learning different meditations and those things. And it opens your mind so much. So you're like, why are we not teaching this in schools? Why is this not? Because I don't use trigonometry.
Preach that one.
Yeah, I don't use trigonometry. I've never needed to know the angle of a ladder to the window. And that still, I don't use that in any way whatsoever. But I think this would have been a really nice thing to understand emotions. Something so simple. And that the minds that we have, when it's the intelligent mind, the emotional mind, and then our analytical mind is such an important thing. We should understand it really. But the beauty of the Monkeymind, the Chimp Paradox, he's done 3 books, and he's done the Chimp Paradox for kids as well. So there's the book for the kids, which is a really good one to read because he does little cartoons for it as well. There's the Silent Mind, the Silent Guide, which is a phenomenal thing, and then there's the Chimp Paradox, which is a beautiful book. Have you read them? You will have read them, Graham. Of course you will.
I I didn't know about the children's one, but the other 2, yes, I have.
Yeah.
But I didn't know about the children's one. I'll have to dig that one out.
I can tell you a really funny story about reading the children's book because I was reading it on a flight home from Cyprus. And if I didn't know about Monkeymind, because the thing is, once you learn about Monkeymind, you kind of see in others really quickly. You're like, oh, yeah. Okay, I know where that person is. So we were on a flight home from Cyprus. Now, my wife is not as calm as I. And I think if you ever get to meet my wife, she will openly admit she doesn't have the patience that I do now. And she is like a firework, in all fairness. Once that litmus paper's gone, it's lucky I've got big, strong arms because I'm just like, it's all right, Carol. It's all right. Just it's all right. I've got this. It's fine. I'll take over for you. On a flight back from Cyprus, we sat down. I'm in the middle, and then there's the lady. There was Carol on the end. Then there's a drunken guy got on. A little bit mouthy. Oh, and it's a 5-hour flight from Cyprus. So he was mouthing off, talking, a little bit drunk. And I thought, I don't really. 5 hours. Come on, 5 hours. I don't want to have to deal with this. So I just got my book out. As I'm sat there reading a children's version of the Chimp Paradox, this guy with his lager breath was just, oh, what's that? What's that picture about monkeys? And he did it for 2 hours. For 2 hours. Wow. And Carol, my wife, was absolutely, she's like a pit bull chewing a wasp. I mean, she's ready to go. If anyone ever gets to meet my wife, she's always the one that will absolutely fight, where I'm just the one that stays calm because I'm quite a big stature, so I always play that down a little bit. The gentle giant, if you like. And for 2 hours each, and if I hadn't got the book and I didn't understand meditation, the power of the breath, I don't know how that flight for 5 hours would have lasted for the gentleman, because he just wouldn't shut up. He just wouldn't, and I'm just sat there reading the book, not responding, just keeping myself to myself. And that's the beauty of everything that I've learned, that I'm in control. Absolutely. And maybe that was a long chat to get to I'm in control, which I never was in the past. Yeah. So there we go. I've got loads more stories, Graham. Honestly, loads more stories for you that I'm sure we're going to deep dive. So go.
I can imagine that we're going to have about 25 episodes of this podcast on our own. The one thing you were talking about when you were talking about the monkey mind comes from the Buddhist monks, and you said that the monkey mind has always got a positive intention, a good intention.
It did have
And
back in the day.
yeah, and as you said that, my mind automatically went to NLP, which is where you then followed on. Because one of the prerequisites of NLP is every action and behavior we have has a positive intention. May not seem like it to others, but to us it has. And that's where the connection came in with there. So that's what sprung to mind with me. So now you've got to the point where you're helping others with this, with similar types of issues. So tell me about what's the type of person you help and how do you help them?
Right. So anybody who has that constant chatter, that internal chatter that just doesn't shut up. I always, because a lot of people say, well, what is your monkey mind? What is it you keep talking about? And it's funny, I have a lot of friends that know, here's the monkey mind guy. And I'm like, yep, I'm the monkey mind guy. So I always try and explain. So to any of your listeners, what is your monkey mind? And the easiest way to explain what your monkey mind is the second you go to bed at nighttime, your head hits the pillow, and it's like the floodgates open up. So if you're not really understanding what the monkey mind is, it's that internal chatter that when you go to bed at nighttime, your head hits the pillow and it's like the floodgates open up, and it basically is rattling off everything that's happened to you in the day, the week, the month, the years, and it just will not shut up. And you'll not be able to sleep. You'll be waking up 3 o'clock in the morning. You will be crabby. That's a Scottish word for a little bit crabby. And you will have just absolutely, it's the most self-debilitating, harmful thing to your life that can cause you stress, anxiety, depression, worry. And what that does to your body, especially with us constantly creating, even just from thoughts, we're creating cortisol, which is just too much and overloading your system, that stress hormone that absolutely is just toxic to you. You need a certain amount of cortisol. Absolutely. You need anxiety to a certain point, because that's what gives you the flight or fight response. We know that. I mean, that's basics for people and stuff like that. But once you're constantly, just by thought, still creating that, the absolute knock-on effect to your body it's just so negative. But yes, we do come from a place, everything has a positive intention. And the monkey mind did have a positive intention. If you don't get back in control of it and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I love that question. Everything I've coded that into my mind and to my brain. Everything has a positive intention. And I mean everything. And I've even worked with clients that we work on that even when they've had trauma in the past, and I've worked with clients with very horrible pasts, bless them, absolute, so many things that go on in their past. I'm like, if that hadn't have happened, you now wouldn't have been able to do what you're doing now. And it's amazing. I mean, I'm working with clients who are working with children from checkered backgrounds, abuse, and all those things. And if they hadn't gone through what they went through as a kid, they wouldn't be doing all the helpful things. And that simple reframing is like, oh my God, if I hadn't have had this horrible thing, I wouldn't have had this positive out of it. So there's always a positive out of everything. And that one question, if everything's got a positive intention, what can I take away from what's happening to me right now as a positive? And if you can look for that positive, and you will find it, might take you a week, but you will find it. You're like, okay. And a simple thing is we don't always see eye to eye with everyone, Graham. You know that. We've got different values, we've got different ideas and things like that. And I've worked with bosses and managers that I'm like, oh, this is going to be a long contract. And you once you start realizing that self-awareness of like, I know my thoughts are going on a downward spiral, I have to be, that question always comes in, what's the positive I can take away from this? And it would be, oh, I now know how not to be as a human being. So I now know that if I get promoted into this position, that's not how I'm going to be. So I took that away. So I took this negative experience of the challenge that we're having to, right, I'm going to learn something and this is going to build me for the future. So I love that question. And that's something you do take away from NLP. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And just like you, if you hadn't had the experience of going into that deep dark hole and your wife slapping you around the chops a couple of times, then
Yeah.
you wouldn't be doing what you're doing now. The same for me. If I hadn't had the experiences I've had with anxiety and depression and stress, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And if you can wake people up to that, as you say, it doesn't always happen straight away because it feels the worst thing in the world when you're in the midst of it. And even if you've pulled away from it a bit, when you're thinking about it, it still feels the worst thing in the world until you can try and find that positive intention out of it. So that's a great point. It's a great tip for anybody out there. So if you had some more tips for people to how to calm their monkey mind or how to improve their lives in general, give me a top three. What would the top three things be for you?
I think one of the self-awareness. I think self-awareness of thoughts, understanding that we are creating those thoughts and we're in charge of those thoughts, is tip number one. And that can be such a hard thing for people to grasp, is I'm in charge of my thoughts. Thought drives emotion. So I meet people, I've worked with people, well, I'm always angry. Okay, what are you thinking about that's making you angry? Well, no, that's not how it works. I'm always angry. No, thought comes first. There's a thought that creates the emotion. That's the premise I always work under. Oh, well, I'm thinking about this. Right. So let's get to this part so that then we can find out why you're always angry. And they're like, oh, so I don't have to be angry all the time. Nope, you don't have to be angry all the time. What? Really? I don't have to be angry? Nope, you don't have to be angry all the time. I'm not saying that we live in this perfect state of bliss. The positive mindset for me, the best way I explain a positive mindset to all my clients is a positive mindset is not rainbow farts and smelling the roses from waking up and going to bed. Nope, there's a total realism to a positive mindset that when it goes down, I was going to say when the shit goes down, but I'm trying not to swear, Graham. I'm trying not to swear. When shit goes wrong, of which it will, we have the tools to get out of it. And we don't dip back into depression. We don't have the anxiety, because I think you need to be anxious. I mean, I still get anxious about things, but having anxiety, no. I still get anxious. I have my way of coding myself to say it's all right, I'm going to get through this. Affirmations, a beautiful thing. So tip number one is I'm in charge of how I feel.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm in charge of that. That is my responsibility.
I think one of the biggest things that ever changed my life was realizing that those thoughts I don't have to engage with. We're not taught that we're taught that they're thoughts and you know they're just part of your mind and they're there and they're part of you, and then actually they're not. They can come across your mind. You can go, no, I'm not interested in that. Go away. Yeah. And that's one of the biggest things. So thank you for that. What's your second tip?
Do you know I want to touch on that again, Graham? To be honest with you, yeah, the thoughts. They are. If that thought is not empowering you to have a half decent day, again, I like to lower expectations. That's my second tip: is lower the expectations of the day, but increase the expectations of myself. My expectations were far too high of everything that was going on. I was like, I used to wake up in the morning and say, no, today is going to be a great day. Today is going to be the best day ever. Then by 9:30 in the morning, something had said something, and I'm like, oh, it's another shit day. Nah, told it, knew it. So by 9:30 in the morning, I'm like, it's another bad day in it. My expectations were too high. My expectations of the day were too high, and my expectations of me were too low. So I changed that mindset to raise my expectations of myself, but lower my expectations of everything around me, family, all those kind of things, so that, and what that does, because like some people hear that, no, you've got to have high expectations. No, I changed my expectations for gratitude. Change it for gratitude. And you know what? That simple mindset shift, you have a great day every day because you're like, actually, no one's let me down. No one's upset me. No one's annoyed me. And I'm really grateful for that experience. And I'm really grateful for that experience. And that actually was a grateful thing. And, this has happened to me, which is not good. But I'm grateful because now I know I can go and change to do something else. So, and look, if anything that happened from 2020 to 2021, I think we have to understand you have to be able to pivot. I think that's such a great word, is pivot and change. So yeah, changing my expectations is tip number 2.
Fantastic. And I love that quote. You really need to use that quote more. Lower the expectations for the day and raise the expectations for yourself. What a quote that is, sir.
Yeah.
And if people are, when people are listening to this, pay attention to that, people, for Christ's sakes, because that's gold right there. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's brilliant. Okay, and tip number 3.
Tip number 3, a Cuddyism, if you like, Graham, a Cuddyism. Whatever you throw out, you will get back. So if you are throwing out judgment, if you are throwing out negativity, it's coming back. Thoughts, emotions, and judgments are like boomerangs. Whatever you throw out is coming back.
Absolutely.
Whatever you throw out is coming back. So if you find yourself judging somebody else, which we've all done, I think we have to be honest, it pops up. And again, self-awareness. There was something happened about 3 days ago, and I'm like, oh, I'm judging that situation. I'm like, nah, that's not going to end well, because I don't want to judge. So I'm going to, no, keep that. Let's move that again. One of those thoughts, Control, Alt, Delete. I'm going to control that one. I'm going to alter that one. I'm going to delete that, because I don't need that. It's the judgment of the situation, and the judgment that we throw out is coming back. It comes, and what I've found and what I've learned over the years is when I'm judging something, or I see something or a comparison, that comes from an insecurity within me. That comes from an insecurity in my part. So I instead of focusing on everything around me, I focus on me. That singularity of I, and what I can control, is maybe I've not got a top 3. Maybe I've got a top 20.
We should do a series of these, definitely.
So it's the singularity of trying to control everyone. Because I used to be the kind of person that used to say, it's not me, it's these 100 people. If I just change these 100 people, I'll be all right. I'll have a good day. But I just need to change these 100 people around me. And that's not really going to help anybody if you think I'll change these 100 so that I'm happy. Or do I come from a place of, actually, if I change one, which is singular, which is I, those 100 things will not annoy me, upset me, piss me off, make my day bad, because I think it's easier to change one, which is I, than everything else. And that's tip number 17.
Something like that, yeah. That's awesome. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Cool. Right. So if people want to get in touch with you, if people's monkey minds are taking over or have taken over the monkey house, how are they going to get in touch with you, Cuddy?
There's so many ways. There's a podcast, which is Monkeymind Podcast Chatter About the Chatter. So we're on Spotify. We are on YouTube. You can check those out. Monkeymind Relaxation.com. Check the website out. There is about 4 different ways to get in contact. We run positive mindset courses for people. We run those every month or a little bit over every month. Amazing testimonials from our clients of how much it makes a difference, and how I think people misunderstand how quickly you can make a change in your life by taking effort, setting an intention and thinking, no, I'm in control, giving the people tools to do that. Or you can work with me one-on-one, because some people really do like those one-on-one sessions, because everyone believes that their problems sometimes are a little bit more different, more important than other people's problems. And I have to agree, sometimes you need that one-on-one to understand their stories, their version of the world, and then see if we can change the perspective on that. And perspective is like a phenomenal thing. I do want to change. I really do want to share a story with you, Graham, because you might like this one. It's called Who Stole My Sausage?
Go on then. Tell me the story. We'll finish
so
off with the story. Who
Stole My Sausage is the accountability of your feelings are yours and yours alone. So for any of your listeners, if this resonates with you, you'll be like, so it's the sausage stealers that are causing me the problem. No, it's actually you by letting the sausage stealers bother you. So picture yourself at a buffet. It's breakfast time. And you think, I really want a sausage for my breakfast. I want a sausage. So you get to the line. There's 7 people in line, and there's 7 sausages sizzling away. And you think, if I have a sausage, I'm going to have an amazing day. So you've already attached your happiness to the sausage. You're not realizing that there's an attachment there. There's the attachment of happiness to that sausage. If I get that sausage, I'm going to have a good day. So you think, right, I'll line up. So 2 people leave, 5 sausages left. You can smell the sausage. Smell the sausage for me, Graham. Smell it. I want you to taste. It smells good.
Yeah, I'm a vegetarian, so that's probably not going to
Are
work.
you
But hey,
really?
yeah. So,
Smell the
okay.
Linda McCartney. Smell the Linda McCartney. It's slid away. So 4 people left. There's 3 sausages left. You're third in line. Oh, today's going to be a good day. I'm getting my sausage. Oh, I'm getting my sausage. It's just going to be the best day ever. 1 person leaves, 2 sausages left in. As you're stood in the line at the buffet of which you've waited 10 minutes for your sausage, you realize from your peripheral vision, somebody walks around the other side of the buffet. They don't stand in the line. They take 2 sausages and walk away. What? Somebody has stolen your sausage? They didn't line up. They didn't queue up. And I meet so many people that will come and tell me, Cuddy, that story about the sausage stealer, I just want to let you know that two hours ago, somebody stole my sausage and I'm still raging about it. Oh, that's terrible. That's absolutely horrible. And then I meet somebody else about 2 hours later, say, oh, Cuddy, I just want to let you know, someone 3 weeks ago stole my sausage and yeah, it still makes me mad now. I'm like, wow, that's terrible. And then I meet somebody else, Cuddy, I just want to mention about your sausage stealer. Someone 4 years ago stole my sausage and I'm still fizzing about it now. So the premise of the sausage stealer story is what your monkey mind will do is basically what's happened is somebody's not seen the line, walked in, stolen the sausage, walked away. Nothing else. No meaning, no drama, no upset. However, us stood there, creates this phenomenal Roald Dahl story of how somebody was stood, and I saw him stood in the corner of the restaurant. They noticed me because I was wearing a pink t-shirt, and they thought, you know what? I'm going to go and steal that person's sausage because I'm having a bad day, so I want him to have a bad day. And we create that story. We create that meaning. And that's the premise of your monkey mind. It loves drama. It loves making up absolute bullshit to create and to reaffirm why you're feeling so angry. So first of all, don't attach your feelings and happiness to the sausage. All right, once someone steals your sausage, don't create a story of why you're the most important person in the world that they've stolen your sausage, because that's only going to infuriate you. First of all, let it go. Let the sausage go, because the one thing that's going to happen is when you keep harping on about that story of someone stealing your sausage, and Graham, you'll have met people that keep basically adding another part to the story to the sausage. Then the next time they have a conversation with somebody else, they add another part of that story to validate their feelings. Then there's another one. So it's not the sausage stealers that steal it. It's your accountability of understanding someone is going to steal your sausage, probably on a daily basis. But if you let that sausage go and you let that story go really quickly, you will absolutely benefit your emotions, your life, how your day is going to go on a daily basis. Because I can guarantee there's always going to be sausage stealers. All right, absolutely. Don't attach your feelings to the sausage. Let it go, and understand we're not that important. We're not that important that somebody's personally gone out of the way to steal my sausage to make me feel bad. Because I can guarantee if you were to ask him, like, oh no, I just didn't even see the line. I was just thinking about something on Wednesday. I just fancied a sausage. Oh, I'm really sorry. And then you get that apology. You're like, oh, well, that makes it all right, does it? And that's the premise of the sausage stealer. There's always going to be sausage stealers. And once we learn those simple techniques of how we can really take control of that, and I'm sure I've worked with some people that have had some really bad sausage stealer stories, a lot more serious than the actual sausage. And that's the premise of the sausage stealers. There's always going to be them. So if I ever do write a book, guess what it's going to be called, Graham?
I think it might be called The Sausage Stealers.
Who stole my sausage?
Yeah, absolutely. It might get put in the adult section. That's the problem.
I was going to create an anchor, and it was going to be a sausage, so that people could really grab hold of the sausage. But I was like, I don't know if there's going to be any connotations of the sausage. It wouldn't look like a sausage.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the one thing, or there's a few things I took from that story, but the one thing is that the monkey mind is great at creating stories, not telling us the truth, but creating stories. Because you're absolutely right. All of a sudden, that person who's stolen the sausage becomes the worst person in the world, because they've stopped, they've looked, they've seen the people in the line, they've picked on you, they've said, I'm going to beat you to it, but then they've walked off laughing and giggling, and they're absolutely laughing and giggling at you. And then when you finally get your breakfast and you haven't got a sausage, and you walk past their table and they finish their breakfast, but they've left half a sausage on the plate, so they're complete and utter bleeps. And the monkey mind is great at creating these absolutely rubbish trash stories that aren't true. And it's that moment where we go, hang on, is this a story or the truth? That we figure out, okay, well, I'll push the story to the side. The truth is, he didn't see the line, he picked a sausage and I haven't got one. Yeah, that happens. My day carries on.
Yeah, life's not fair. Someone's going to steal your sausage. And that's the thing that we do, is we create meanings to everything that's happening to us. We create meanings. If those meanings are not positive, don't listen to the meaning.
Absolutely.
It's such an empowering thing to do, is once you... Another great book is The Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. And it's funny because once I've been telling everybody about Monkeymind and stuff like that, you have people come and... Because I did used to do lectures all over the world in my previous job and things like that. So I was doing... So you can check those out on YouTube as well, Cuddy Cudworth. There is these lectures about who stole my sausage. There's the lectures that I did on cruise ships all over the world. And it really did. People would come up to you at the end of this and say, oh, thank you so much. It really does help and things like that. Then they'd say, oh, have you read this book? And everyone kept telling me about The Untethered Soul, The Untethered Soul, The Untethered Soul. And I'm like, oh, I'll have to give that one a try. And a phenomenal book about being the observer of who's creating that story and who's creating those things, and getting behind it, become the observer of that. And once you become the observer of that, and it's not mystical, because I've been doing a lot of podcasts myself. And a lot of people say, oh, I'm going to talk woohoo. And I'm like, why is it woohoo that we talk about an understanding and a different perspective that's not technically considered normal medicine, going to see the doctor, getting tablets? And I'm quite passionate of people not being on antidepressants and things like that. I think there's a need for them, I suppose, in certain cases and stuff like that. But if you can create those chemicals by laughing, by going for a walk, such as serotonin and dopamine, and there's so many different ways you can create these chemicals that can absolutely get you out of depression, then try those methods first. Because, and especially, I did a podcast with a guy, and you're always aware there's so much information going around. We're always fully aware of like the placebo effect and how well things can happen. And the difference between a placebo effect and antidepressant is about 4% success rate. 4% success rate. So that's not even one of my facts. That's from David Knight, a fantastic hypnotist that I work with. So if you're taking something that is only a 4% difference to what it does to your body, then an absolute, like a placebo, which is basically taking a Polo and someone saying it's an antidepressant. For any of your listeners that don't understand what a placebo is, you can take a sugar sweet and somebody tells you the power of a belief is that's the antidepressant and it's going to do this to you. And you can create that with your mind. And he used this great reference of the mind is your own pharmacy. And I was like, oh, Dave, that's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. So we can start. I don't think that's woohoo. I genuinely don't think that's woohoo. And that's why, Graham, I know you as well. We want to pass on these stories of there's other options. And to any one of your listeners listening, I think one of the biggest things is it's never as bad as you think it is. And I think the word that people misunderstand is the word think it is. Think. If you can think, and I've worked with clients, and when I'm working with clients, and I know you asked me earlier, who are my perfect ideal clients? For me, my ideal clients is gentlemen 30 to 50, going through a tough time, struggling to be able to talk about their emotions, struggling to be able to talk about things that's going wrong in their life, how they're not being able to control. Because as gentlemen, we have we're taught from a young age, we're men, we hunt, we gather, we're the strong ones. We don't talk about our feelings. We don't talk about our emotions. And that, tough it up. Just tough it up, get past it. And that's really just not the way it is it? And I think we need to start talking more about, and I'm always, especially because of the teachings I've learned from you as well, I'm always still a little bit on the fence on mental health and emotional health, on where depression lies on that. On depression I'd still love to hear your thoughts on that. Does depression come under a mental illness or does it come under an emotional illness? Because I think there should be a better clarification of what depression is, because when you go to the doctor and say, oh, you've got depression and anxiety, no one says to you what that is. So then you walk away with a feeling, oh, I have something. Oh, I have anxiety. Oh, and I have depression. Oh, wow. And then you take ownership of it. Once you take ownership of it, you're like, well, I have something, so I can't go and do that. I can't live that life. I can't go and do that. And I'm like, so to try and get that conversation to people is like, no, you don't have anything. You're in a depression. What is anxiety? Well, anxiety is your thoughts are firing off and it's overwhelming your brain, and your brain is just shutting down. It's shutting down, so then it creates panic within your body. So the flight or fight, so that's where you lose your breath. That's what anxiety is. That's that upset, that pain. But we can change that by just looking at your thoughts and creating a different perspective for you. Oh, so I don't have social anxiety. No, you have a belief that says you can't do something. I'll share one of the stories. I just kept talking to you, Graham. See, I've been doing podcasts, so I don't get to talk as much because you're the one that's asking the questions, right? So one of my clients, absolutely beautiful person, one of my first clients as well, and she had social anxiety, and it was the belief that she'd picked up the phone once and been given bad news. So a brain had made a connection, pick up phone, bad news. That causes pain. Brain remembers pain, negativity bias. I don't now want to pick up the phone in case I get bad news. So we've created that thought loop, that activating event, that becomes then a belief, and that becomes your anxiety, because every time you go to pick up a phone, you think, nope, you're going to get bad news, you're going to get bad news, you're going to get bad news. Obviously, monkey mind's going, don't pick up the phone, don't pick up the phone. So then we create a social anxiety. I can't pick up the phone. So we use logic to get them past that. And once you get them past being able to pick up the phone, then they realize, actually, my other belief of social anxiety is not real. My other belief of social anxiety is not. So then with only like 3 sessions, you're like, so I don't have social anxiety. Nope, you don't have social anxiety. You had a belief that if you pick up the phone, you're going to get bad news. Let's prove that wrong together. And then so I will give a tip to anybody, a cracking tip. And something so simple that I've used with a lot of my clients is, would you buy a lottery ticket? No, I'm not going to buy a lottery ticket. Well, why are you not going to buy a lottery ticket? Because I'm not going to win. Perfect. We're going to use that mindset to pick up the phone. What do you mean? Well, every time you don't want to pick up the phone, you have to go and buy a ticket. Well, why do I want to go and buy a ticket? Well, you're not going to win the lottery, so you're not going to get bad news if you pick up the phone. I said there's a high probability that you're going to get a low probability. If you get 1,000 phone calls, one of them you might get bad news. We're not going to take away the bad news. What we're saying is you've got a better chance of winning the lottery than you have of getting bad news picking up the phone. And her quick response was, oh, I'm going to be skinned because I'm going to have to buy a lottery ticket. He went, I can't afford it. I said, not a problem. Pick up the phone. So you have to do it once. We have to do that once. All right, okay. She didn't do it until Tuesday. Then she answered the phone on the Tuesday and she was like, she rattled on, and she got back in. So we had the next session of the chat, and she went, I answered the phone all week long, and I've not had to buy one lottery ticket. I went, absolutely fantastic. Now, for you as a coach, you're like, that's amazing. Using something so simple as logic, buying a lottery ticket. They were so adverse to spending £2 on a lottery ticket every time they didn't want to pick up the phone. She went, oh, I've got to pick up the phone. Because I created a habit form. I went a bit fuzzy there. I created a habit form formula for her. I said every time, sign off on it for us, and we'll speak in a week's time. And she's living her best life. She's a boxing champion now. It's a phenomenal lady. Awesome. Living her best life. Absolutely fantastic. Just from using the the lottery method. Let's call it the lottery.
The lottery method.
I'm making that up for anyone that's listening. Yeah,
fantastic. Absolutely wonderful. And just to answer your question that you asked of me, do I think depression is mental health or emotional health?
Yes.
My card falls on the side of its emotional health. To me, depression is an emotion. Like you said, it's not something you have. It's not something you contract. It's not a disease. Nope. It is an emotion. Anxiety is an emotion.
Yep.
Stress, anger, fear, all of those, they're emotions. And because they're emotions, there are patterns to them.
Yep.
And we can help people to break those patterns, just like you helped that lady to break her pattern of the belief and of what she does and you've broken the pattern down. Mental health is a lot more serious. It's, there are people with serious mental health that
Yep.
need drugs and all of that sort of medication and all that sort of stuff. I agree. But we are, when I went to the doctor and got diagnosed with depression, stress, and anxiety all at the same time, it was like I had caught the plague or something.
Yep.
Because that's how she described it. I remember the doctor describing it to me. You've got these conditions; they are part of your life now. And I remember walking out there with the prescription in my hand going, I need to know more about this before I start taking drugs. Mainly because she said, the drugs they'll probably take about 3 months to start working. I'm like, I don't want to wait 3 months before before I start feeling better. So no, it's not something you catch. It's a label that we attach, or we get attached to us very often by the medical profession, which we then take in, and it becomes part of our identity. When we start saying, I am depressed, well, that I that you talked about earlier in the podcast, that it goes into our identity. And then, as human beings, we are driven to be consistent with who we believe we are. And if we believe we're depressed, well, hey presto, we're going to be depressed. So we need to break that cycle. So that's my thoughts on it. Thank you for asking.
No, I have to ask, because I think the more we learn is, and that's, I think that's one of the things that I learned 8 years ago, is we get so stuck on thinking we know what we know, and that's the only way it has to be. And I think I was 33, 34 when it happened. I'm 44 now, so yeah, I was about 35, and we think we know a lot, and then it's that, and I suppose you call it a breakdown, but I do remember the Tony Robbins is, what if the worst day of your life was actually the best day of your life? If you can reframe the worst thing. So if I had not gone and had that 6 months of absolute torture, I wouldn't be living this life of helping people get from where they are to where they want to be in the space of, I generally do it over about four sessions. I always remember from you, like, I don't think therapy and keeping people in long-term therapy is beneficial to anybody. I think people have got different issues, and I know that we've got trauma, and I know that gets deep-seated down into our unconscious and keeps firing off, and PTSD, and I completely understand that. I mean, I've worked with people with PTSD. And going back to another question that you did ask is, who do I work with? I genuinely say that guys from 30 to 50, but believe it or not, most of my clients are ladies. And I always say, fair play to the ladies for understanding and saying, you know what, this is not right. I'm going to go and do something about it. I absolutely tip my hat to the ladies, especially all my clients that have worked with me on things. But guys, and I think that's maybe why I resonated with you when I was following, and it was the story about all the things that I'm having the tablets. So I remember when I went to the doctors, they never really gave me the tablets. He just didn't really have any answers for me, because I said, is this normal? Is this natural? No. And he was like, oh, it was an awkward experience. It was an awkward experience that I'd gone to a doctor to ask for an answer, because you go to the professional people for an answer, right? And nothing. Just, I think he gave me the phone number for the Samaritans, and I'm like, no, I've not got suicidal thoughts. And I'm like, I think there's some phone numbers, and I'm like, no, I've not got suicidal thoughts. It's just weird, isn't it? It's one of those weird things. And when you do tell this story to the people that you help and things like that, and it gives them that little bit of a, first of all, it's not just me. It's not just me, especially when you read those, but there we go, someone else has gone through it. And you share your story of the upset and the drama, so that it hopefully lets somebody else know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not a train coming. I always like that reference. Oh, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but is it a train coming? No, it's not. It's the guiding light. And I, even now to this day, because we're so passionate about, and Graham, I'm sure you're like this as well. We're so passionate about, we know how you can change if you're willing to do the work. Because no one's coming to save you. No one's coming to do it. You can't save people, or you can't change people that don't want to be changed. I get that. Absolutely. Genuinely, you can't change people, because I've had referrals from clients who said, oh, I've got a friend that needs your services. Not a problem, but unless they can have a discovery call with me. First of all, if we don't resonate, because I know I worked with you well. Remember I told you about the gentleman that I'd been working with that was like no longer got depression, and after like only 3 sessions, and that was amazing transformation for him. And I said, look, I'll work with any of your friends, not a problem, but they have to first of all understand whether they're going to be able to resonate with me, whether we're going to be able to work with things, because we're going to focus on the future. Because our bibliography, our past is not our future. It's not the direction we're going. So we look at solutions to get you moving forward. Even though we know that we've had a horrible past and there's treacherous things that can have happened to us, it's in the past, and we're going to help you start creating a new past from today, because you're creating your history today. So let's make one day, baby steps, 1 day, 2 steps, 3 steps, 4 steps. And it's that I've got really broad shoulders, and I like picking people up and saying, come on, let's do this together. All right. And it's such a beautiful, passionate job to have, and career, being a life coach. And I know I'm trained in cognitive behavioral therapy, NLP, and meditation is just something that I've learned because it helped me. And I love it. You wake up every morning with a purpose and a passion. And even though there's some days you're like, oh, what am I doing? It's like, no, I know my why. I know my why. And if I can help one person get from where they are to where I know they can be, then it's worth it. It's worth it in every part of my body. It really is, Graham. And I'm sure that's the same for you as well.
It is absolutely. It is
fantastic. Amazing. And I love your academy. For everyone that's listening, and because I'll share this on my socials and stuff like that, the academy, the Priority Academy, if you are looking for any kind of questions or answers, and you're willing to spend time. So I think one of your courses took me about 3 months to get through it. And I used to do about an hour every night. That was the cognitive behavioral therapy one. It took me an hour. I spent 2 hours every night to get through it. And I was like, this is good. And I'd done a previous cognitive behavioral therapy course, which took me 3 months as well. And it was nowhere near as good as yours, of how you can use cognitive behavioral therapy to help people and things like that. So it is a phenomenal thing. And I know it doesn't work for everyone. And for any one of your listeners who's listening, you've got to find what works for you. If it's not me and it's not meditation, then try EFT tapping. If it's not tapping, try whatever you can, which is holistic, which is healthy, which is going for a walk. I mean, the benefits of going for a walk is just so phenomenal for your mind, for your thoughts, and your breath. Don't underestimate the power of your breath. I think I'm giving you am I giving you enough value here, Graham, for any of your listeners?
I certainly think you've added massive value to this podcast, Cuddy, indeed.
Don't underestimate the power of breath, right? Don't create a story that's not true. I mean, I don't know if I told you about the anxiety snap bands.
You did, yep.
So I am going to show them, but don't underestimate of how that band or an elastic band can actually change your life. That is 999. This is not a shameless plug. This is actually what saved my life with meditation. 2 things: meditation and an elastic band. I got fed up of an elastic band, and a lot of my clients, when I give them the elastic band, say, oh, it looks disgusting. I thought, right, do you know what? I'll create a nice little band. That's what I'll do. There's 4 lovely colors. Don't underestimate the power of your breath and the little things in life. We just are the best at creating stories that are not true, and our brain doesn't know the difference. The brain just there to store information and go off your commands. It goes off the language that we use and the commands that we give it, and that's its purpose. Its purpose is to keep you alive, and it just wants easy things to do, because your brain's quite lazy. Your brain is so lazy. Do you know, Graham, I don't know if you know this, you must know this, but how I know you're looking at the time thinking it was only supposed to be 20 minutes long. All right, we're going to go for a 2-hour podcast, Graham. We're doing a 2-hour podcast. I'm just kidding. But it was something that I learned. I think it was a Darren Brown, about how lazy your brain is. Your brain is lazy because it's doing so much. It just wants easy things to do. So even on finding a partner, because it's lazy, because it doesn't want to deal with that, it's going to go for a simple pattern of, oh, there you go, you've made a brain. Even finding a partner, you will find your brain might have made a decision on a name, so it's easy to remember And if that name is similar to yours, you'll probably find an attraction with that person. Now, I don't know if you know that, Graham, but the thing is, my wife's name before she married me was Carol Goddard. So she's married me. She's now a CC, Carol Cudworth. My name is Cuddy Cudworth, or Craig Cudworth. I'll tell everyone my real name, Craig Cudworth, which is CC. So even that premise of like, it really does do the simplest things because my wife's got the same name as me, CC. That was a mind blown. And I was walking up a Monroe listening to the Darren Brown podcast. And I'm like, oh, my brain's so silly. It's so simple. It's so simple looking for easy things that, yes, I found my wife and she's practically got the same name as me. How freaky is that, Graham? How freaky is that?
It's freaky, but I'm not sure I want to be in the same room with you when you tell your wife that you fell in love with her because she's got a similar name to you.
No, because we're making these judgments. And I just thought, if your brain's so easy, it wants simple patterns. It wants simple patterns, make its life easy. Because, do you know what? I'm not going to write. I love talking about these things, Graham. And you gave me a little bit of a pulpit to share these fabulous stories and the simple things that we overcomplicate by thought.
Absolutely. Right. I'm going to cut you off because I have clients to get to. So.
No problem. Graham, if you want to do another one.
As much as I could do this all day, it would be great. But yeah, I have got clients to get to. That's why I do keep looking at the clock, and my apologies for that.
Thank you so much.
So just to remind people, it is monkeymindrelaxation.com is your website, and they can contact you through there, find all your Facebook stuff through there and everything. That's correct. Fantastic. Cuddy, it has been the pleasure that it always is to have a chat with you, my friend. And thank you so much for coming on. And I will look forward to, we've got to do this again at some point because it's so much fun. Folks, if you're interested in working with Cuddy, getting to know him, getting in his Facebook group, doing some meditation and stuff with him, then please look him up. He's a fantastic guy. And you'll absolutely learn a load, and he'll probably help you out a whole bunch too. Thank you so much for watching or listening, folks, and I will see you, or you'll hear me again on the Coaches Cafe podcast real soon. Thank you so much, and from me, goodbye. Cuddy, thank you so much, and goodbye, sir.
Not a problem. Absolute pleasure. Anytime. I'm always here.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye, folks.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Coaches Cafe. Why not check out the Priority Academy to see what courses we've got on offer for you?